Chapter 24, 19 Netherworld Sinluo 1. Orion's power of the most devoted is not only a sacrifice of burning life, but also a conduit for self-sacrifice. With this ultimate strike, he sent Leibniz back to Earth's Spadagon. However, what was sent back was not Leibniz's physical body, but her spirit. This ability surprised Zhang Yi greatly. It could transcend the physical body, something even he couldn't do. Judging from this, it must be some kind of supernatural ability exerted by the Holy See, which is based on the power of faith. Or is it dependent on that copy of the Apocalypse? Zhang Yi recalled that when Mammon was sealed away, Cardinal Arnold Oleb also used this ability to escape his interdimensional confinement. But while Orion could get rid of Leibniz, he himself couldn't leave. In the blink of an eye, Zhang Yi's fingers moved many times, and one terrifying spatial rift after another appeared on his body. The holy light gradually faded, and Orion's figure swayed in the wind. His face was contorted, and his body was slowly emitting a white fluorescence, which was the energy that had vanished after Zhang Yi attacked him with dimensional string disintegration. However, his eyes remained fierce, filled with anger and fighting spirit. Even as his life rapidly faded, he roared, "For the papacy! For the faith! Even in death, I have fulfilled my mission." The abyss of eternal darkness trembled violently, as if ignited by this fervor. A low growl echoed from the depths of darkness. It was Samuel's presence responding. Holy light and darkness intertwined at this moment, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. Zhang Yi stared coldly at Orion as it gradually burned out, his expression indifferent. He understood that this was not simply madness, but a well-thought-out sacrifice. Leibniz is not dead, but forced to return. The Vatican's conspiracy is far from over. Brian cursed under his breath from a distance, but Fatty Sue was too nervous to speak. The Templars raised their weapons, but none dared to step forward. They knew that under such a clash of forces, any approach would only be suicide. Zhang Yi slowly raised his hand, and the sword of judgment appeared, its sharp edge gleaming. He said coldly, "Since you have chosen to sacrifice yourself, then let all of this return to oblivion." Orion laughed heartily, a final burst of light emanating from his chest. His flesh and blood turned to ashes, leaving only the ancient flame of faith burning in the air. With a light flick of Zhang Yi's sword, the myriad phenomena of the universe opened, and the spatial gate devoured the remaining energy, turning it into nothingness. Silence returned. Only the wind from the abyss continues to weep softly, as if telling the story of the end of a devout believer. The black mist of the abyss of eternal darkness surged, as if responding to some unspeakable existence. Father Orion's flesh and blood had long since burned away, his body turning to ashes in the intense light, but his piety and fervor did not dissipate with it. To everyone's astonishment, his soul materialized into a tangible form. But this time, he transformed into pure white light and fire, like a Holy Spirit appearing in the world. His enormous body swelled like a white cloud, growing to over 100 meters tall. Like a giant god, he coldly looked down at Zhang Yi in front of him. He stood once again on the battlefield, bathed in light and wielding a spear and sword. This is no longer the posture of an ordinary person, but the spiritual incarnation after everything has been burned away. There was no sign of retreat in his eyes, only an almost obsessive determination. The apocalypse tumbled in midair, and the spirit Orion reached out and grasped it. The spear and sword in his hand burst forth with holy light, their sharpness even more terrifying than before. Chaos! He roared fiercely, his voice seeming to tear from the depths of his soul. Only human longing can transcend time and space. Even your myriad phenomena cannot stop the bullets of faith. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised the holy silver spear in his hand, aimed it at Zhang Yi, and quickly pulled the trigger.
Boom, boom, boom.
One after another, enormous white stars erupted from the muzzle of his gun, bursting densely in midair like 100 white suns radiating intense light, before hurtling toward Zhang Yi at breakneck speed. Zhang Yi's eyes were cold and sharp. He was on high alert and needed to see just how strong Orion's combat power was in his burning spirit form. In an instant, huge holy silver bullets arrived in front of Zhang Yi. However, they actually bypassed Zhang Yi's layers of dimensional gates and pierced Zhang Yi's chest from an unbelievable angle. The air seemed to freeze, and the hearts of all the spectators behind them almost stopped beating. They witnessed firsthand how Orion's spirit spear broke through the all things in the universe level, a feat never before accomplished by anyone. The bullet had already arrived, aimed directly at Zhang Yi's body. However, a cold glint flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. He wasn't alarmed, because all of that was just the future foreshadowed by the second hand of time. This ability can actually penetrate my myriad phenomena. Zhang Yi was very surprised. It's not the power of causality, nor is it an illusion. He recalled what Father Orion had said earlier. The only thing that can transcend time and space is human longing. In other words, can attacks from spirits transcend time and space? Therefore, even space cannot limit it. The line of the future unfolded clearly before Zhang Yi's eyes, and he saw the painting in which he had been pierced. So, in that instant of reality, he made a new choice. He slowly raised the eternal sword of judgment in his hand, and the aura of the netherworld within his body erupted. That was a power from the other side of the netherworld called Dark Realm Flow. A massive black vortex appeared behind him. It was the gateway connecting the outer universe and the inner universe, or rather, the netherworld. Countless black, viscous, and thick streams of water surged in the void, like a long river flowing backwards, enveloping his entire body and covering the holy sword in his hand. Immediately afterwards, that power merged with the myriad phenomena of the universe, splashing ink in front of Zhang Yi and transforming into a spherical defense. Combining skills with the myriad phenomena of the universe, a brand new defensive barrier, a netherworld of the universe, is created. Orion unleashed a barrage of bullets at an astonishing speed, so fast that they were difficult to catch with the naked eye. But when they touched that infinite black boundary, they seemed to sink into an endless quagmire. The black water swirled around the spirit blade, gradually devouring and disintegrating the holy light within it. That power was silent and stealthy, yet like the corrosive force of time, it caused minute cracks to appear in Orion's spirit body the moment they came into contact. Zhang Yi's sword suddenly trembled at that moment. Olé, your faith may transcend time and space, but before the currents of the dark realm, your spirit will ultimately crumble. A black torrent surged forth, as if to engulf the entire abyss of eternal darkness. Orion's spirit struggled frantically, swinging his gun and sword incessantly, his holy light radiating as if to tear through the darkness. But the darkness was as endless as an abyss, and with each resistance, a part of his spirit shattered. Chapter 24-20 Netherworld Sinluo 2. Zhang Yi's sword blade unleashed a torrent of dark power, like a raging river, the matter from the netherworld indiscriminately erasing everything in the surface universe. Antimatter is the opposite of everything that exists in the universe, and there is no element that can restrain it. No, it is the entity that restrains all elements in the material world. Even when Orion burned his spirit body and unleashed forbidden power, his powerful spiritual attacks were still mercilessly erased by the power of the dark realm's flowing current. The repeated collisions were so powerful that they made the onlookers' hearts pound with fear. Even powerful figures like King Arthur and Saladin had their eyes darting around nervously and dared not get too close. This guy is a monster. How can he grow so fast? King Arthur's voice carried a hint of resentment, for just a year ago, the difference in their strength had not been so great. He had originally planned to challenge Zhang Yi to another match after his return from Atlantis. But now it seems he shouldn't be courting death. Saladin said meaningfully, "Do you really think that's all the gain someone who passes the trials of a god-level civilization has made?" King Arthur recalled the trial that took place in the Chernobyl space realm and suddenly realized something. Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin still don't know what they ultimately gained from Tianyu Palace. Snap. The first crack appeared on Father Orion's chest. The power gained from burning one's spirit body weakens over time. His terrifyingly powerful tidal wave of spiritual energy bullets was utterly unable to tear through the defenses of the mighty Dark Realm River. He could only watch helplessly as Zhang Yi's attacks continued to come, while his own strength was rapidly diminishing. Once a crack appears in the defenses, a second and a third line will follow. Orion roared to the heavens, "My faith is immortal. It will last until death." His voice was deafening, as if it could tear the sky apart. No matter how much he shouted, his spirit continued to shatter little by little in the torrent of darkness, and its radiance gradually faded. Zhang Yi's gaze was cold and unwavering, devoid of any pity. His figure was like that of a judge, the eternal sword in his hand gleaming with a cold light. The power of the Dark Realm surged ever more fiercely, forming a massive black river flowing across the sky. This force completely enveloped Orion's spirit, and in the end, it crushed him inch by inch in a silent crushing process. The holy light faded, the fervor dissipated, and only the lingering echoes reverberated in the abyss. Those were Orion's last whispers. "For the papacy, I have given everything." Immediately, his soul transformed into countless specks of light, vanishing without a trace in the dark waters. The abyss of eternal darkness has once again fallen into deathly silence. Only Zhang Yi stood in the darkness, his back like an unquestionable arbiter, making everyone who witnessed this scene tremble. They watched as Zhang Yi personally retrieved Orion's source of supernatural power. "I'm sick of saying I envy and am jealous of them. Zhang Yi can kill the Black Bishop as easily as killing a dog." Seeing the War Knights, the powerful and influential sect that had dominated the world for many years, fall in battle, King Arthur and the others were filled with endless emotions. Life is so fragile. Even the strong are always at risk of being killed by the even stronger. However, even now, they still don't know what the purpose of all this is. The black mist of the abyss of eternal darkness finally subsided, and Zhang Yi slowly withdrew the sword of judgment from his hand. The surging of the Dark Realm also gradually calmed down. Father Orion's spirit completely collapsed, turning into countless points of light and dissipating into the void. However, at the very last moment, the remaining consciousness still lingered. "Chaos, one day you too will join me and everyone else in the glorious purification. This is the inescapable destiny of all sixth-generation humans." The deep, hoarse voice echoed in everyone's ears, as if it were not just a simple last word, but some kind of curse or a prophecy from a higher level. Zhang Yi frowned deeply as he stared at the dissipating light, a chill of indescribable coldness rising in his heart. "A glorious purification?" He muttered to himself, his eyes cold, but he had a vague feeling that there must be a deeper meaning behind his words. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't immediately decipher the mystery left behind by Orion. The phrase "everyone" is particularly unsettling, as if foreshadowing some inescapable fate. However, he knew that the Holy See, which actually had the largest number of believers, must be plotting something terrible. So much so that they were willing to risk releasing the Druk giant to do such a foolish thing. Before he could even think it through, a massive surge of energy suddenly swept over him. The battle between the first Black Moon priest and Xian Yu Fei Ming finally affected everyone around them at this moment. The sky roared, and a deep, powerful, heart-pounding sound echoed from the depths of the abyss of eternal darkness. Xian Yu Fei Ming was completely shrouded in darkness. Her body seemed to have merged with the abyss of eternal darkness, her flesh and blood writhing in the black mist, and her soul intertwined with Samuel's power. She laughed maniacally, her eyes turning into swirling vortexes of abyss. "Ha ha ha! Feudal resistance! By Lord Samuel's grace, I have become immortal. You will not kill me." Her body was torn apart time and time again by the first Black Moon priest's sword light, yet it quickly recovered each time. Every wound healed under the dark moonlight, and even became stronger after healing. The first Black Moon priestess had a cold and stern face. Every time she swung her sword, it carried the belief of suppression. However, she could only barely suppress Xian Yu Fei Ming, but could not completely destroy her. Zhang Yi's gaze darkened slightly as he felt the lingering darkness. The Druk gods, symbols of immortality and indestructibility. For billions of years, the Creator has split the continents, unleashed planetary catastrophes, created ice ages and massive volcanic eruptions, yet none of them have been destroyed. At this moment, Xian Yu Fei Ming is actually like a prosthetic limb of Samel, who is trapped under the earth. Ordinary methods are simply insufficient to kill it. Therefore, he was very clear that no matter how strong the first Black Moon priest was, he could never completely annihilate Xian Yu Fei Ming. However, if Xian Yu Fei Ming doesn't die, this farce will never end. An idea suddenly popped into Zhang Yi's mind. There is only one way to counter the power of the Druker Titan. His hand slowly reached into the alternate dimension, and with a gentle touch of his fingertips, a cold light appeared, transforming into a huge and beautiful humanoid figure in midair. That was Ling's human form. Chapter 24-21 Netherworld Sinluo 3. Ling's aura spread instantly, like clear moonlight piercing through the darkness of the abyss of eternal darkness. The masterpiece of the Ishtar race's most advanced technology. Even though the original ether has returned to the ether sea, her body can still bring tremendous shock to the world. The Black Moon priests all raised their heads at that moment, their eyes trembling. Zhang Yi's voice echoed across the battlefield, calm yet carrying an irresistible authority. Priests of the Black Moon, if you want to truly stop Xian Yu Fei Ming, your individual strength alone is not enough. She has borrowed Samel's blessing and possesses an indestructible body. To completely destroy her, you must gather your strength and concentrate it on the body of the Sword Knight. He gazed at Ling's human form in midair, the moonlight flowing between the sword blades like the light of reincarnation. Their eyes met, and a sly glint flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. He certainly wouldn't miss this opportunity to obtain the power of the powerful Black Moon priest. Ling is conscious, whether it's the operating program of her mechanical body or anything else, but she is still very intelligent. Moreover, after absorbing most of Zheng Lu's original essence, she did indeed change and showed signs of transforming into a true life form. Zhang Yi wanted to try and see what changes would occur if he infused her with more energy. Please lend your power to the noble swordsman, Zhang Yi shouted to the Black Moon priests. Upon hearing this, the expressions of the 5 Black Moon priests changed drastically. They could clearly sense the aura emanating from Ling's human form, a characteristic of a second-generation deity, the supreme being of the material world. Created by the Drukers, they couldn't help but feel a deep-seated fear when they saw Ling. The Sword Knight, with his sword of judgment and immortality, once slew countless Druks. Even the 7 nearly immortal Druker kings were sealed away by her multiple times. Take Samel, for example. He has been defeated by her sword more than once. You, the 3rd Black Moon priest spoke in a low voice, his eyes showing both shock and a hint of unease. The 1st Black Moon priestess also had a complicated expression. She stared at Zhang Yi, as if trying to see through his intentions. Xian Yu Fei Ming's eyes suddenly changed drastically at this moment. Impossible. Impossible. That aura, the Sword Knight of the Aihen clan. How could you have her human form? Her voice suddenly became hoarse, a mixture of anger and fear. The pitch-black body began to writhe wildly, as if it wanted to tear the heavens and the earth apart. How dare you betray Samel? How dare you lend your power to a heretic? No! A dark tide swept in, and the entire abyss of eternal darkness seemed about to collapse completely. Samel, sealed beneath the abyss of eternal darkness, sensed the presence of his natural enemy. His dark spiritual will surged like a tsunami, yet he was bound by the seal and unable to break free. Zhang Yi didn't care about this. He already knew that the torch-lighting ceremony was complete, so Samel couldn't possibly break free of the seal. Zhang Yi stood still, and the Sword of Judgment, which he had thrown out, returned to Ling's hand. Ling's human form is radiant and dazzling. Zhang Yi's voice was as firm as iron. "Xian Yu Fei Ming, no matter what power you borrow today, I will destroy you." The Black Moon Priest's breathing became increasingly rapid, their eyes flashing with struggle and determination. They knew that if they didn't entrust their power to Ling, they probably wouldn't be able to eliminate Xian Yu Fei Ming in today's battle on their own. Xian Yu Fei Ming's roar had turned into a mad howl, and the dark giant shadow behind her became clearer and clearer. It was Samuel's phantom, as if whispering, as if watching. Samuel's resistance to Ling also affected Xian Yu Fei Ming, driving her to the brink of madness. On this battlefield where darkness and light intertwine, Zhang Yi simply waited silently for the Black Moon Priests to make their choice. Ultimately, the Black Moon Priests made their choice. "We have no other choice but to trust the humans of this planet. Everyone, focus your power on the Sword Knight. The most important task now is to kill this traitor." The first priest spoke, and the others immediately nodded in response. 5 Black Moon Priests arrived not far from Ling, their bodies erupting with powerful alien energy, like 5 pillars soaring into the sky, then converging into a torrent that surged into Ling's body. Deep within the abyss of eternal darkness, darkness and holy light collided fiercely, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. The void trembled, and Ling's aura grew stronger and stronger. Her eyes grew brighter and brighter, and Zhang Yi vaguely sensed the same aura she had when she was at Tianyu Palace. That one man with a sword was so powerful that he could cut Mammon to pieces. Zhang Yi would never forget it. Zhang Yi didn't delay the division. She flew towards Ling's chest. Ling's enormous body unfolded once more like Mercury, revealing a hollow space that could accommodate him. Zhang emerged into Ling's body. His figure blossomed into a new form amidst a dazzling radiance, Ling's aura perfectly aligning with his soul, as if their twin destinies were united at this moment. "Let us unite our thoughts," Zhang Yi whispered, but his voice resounded throughout the entire abyss. The next instant, he raised the Sword of Judgment. The sword shone with unprecedented brilliance, and ancient and obscure runes appeared on its blade, as if bearing the order and judgment of all realms. His superpower index rose sharply, breaking through from 50,000 and 60,000 all the way to over 70,000 points. The oppressive feeling was like the arrival of a god. The air froze, and the earth trembled. King Arthur, Saladin, Morgan, and others watched the battle from a distance, not daring to approach. This level of battle is completely beyond their purview. But the moment they sensed that aura, their minds still felt as if they were being gripped by an invisible giant hand. Even the mighty king's knees buckled at that moment, and he instinctively knelt on one knee, supporting himself with his sword blade, cold sweat beading on his forehead. He wasn't submitting to Zhang Yi. Rather, he was completely overwhelmed by that overwhelming power. Saladin also froze in the shadows, his pupils shrinking to the size of pinpoints, his heart pounding, sweat streaming down his face. Even though he considered himself an emperor, he was forced to bow his head at this moment. Not only them, but all the Templar Knights, Shadow Fiend Legion warriors, and elite Inhuman warriors of Goranvaya present, even the dark elements in the air, trembled as if witnessing a being beyond human comprehension. After the 5 Black Moon Priests poured all their power into Ling, they retreated at lightning speed, hoping that Zhang Yi could achieve victory in one battle. "This traitor is yours to handle. Kill her." The first priest spoke to Zhang Yi. After Zhang Yi and Ling merged into one, he clearly felt how terrifying this power was. Ability Index, over 70,000 points, Queen-level combat power. Compared to his previous self, it's like night and day. Tomato has a ranking event going on recently. You can access it on the homepage. Let's organize an event and compete for it. If we make it onto the list, I'll update 50 chapters immediately. Love you all, moi. Dear viewers, thanks for staying with me. We'll try to get you more updates. Please like and subscribe and share the video with your friends. Love you all.